Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for stopping by. For those of you who don't know, I am a lawyer, and in today's video, in this virtual court of law, I am going to submit to you in as brief and concise a manner as possible the overwhelming amount of evidence that proves beyond a reasonable doubt that Johnny Depp was physically, mentally, and emotionally abused by Amber Heard throughout their relationship. The point of this video is to present evidence as though it was being presented in a court of law, albeit of course in a much more informal manner, because this isn't a court of law and it would be quite boring if I were to conduct myself in exactly the same way. But in an attempt to give my submissions gravitas and a degree of formality, I will be solely relying on Johnny Depp's declaration as the basis for my submissions, along with any evidence that he has submitted in the form of exhibits. This is basically what lawyers do in real life. We work with our client's version of events and rely on their story and, of course, their evidence, if they have any, to meet the standard of proof required to win their case. I've already carefully read through his declaration, so I won't be subjecting you to that. It can be a little bit dry, and besides, I can always link it down below for you so that you can read it for yourself if you're interested. It's only about 22 pages long and 40 paragraphs, so it's not crazy. Maybe for non-lawyers it may seem like too much, but it's quite brief in the grand scheme of things, and it's also written in a very informal manner, so there isn't any legal jargon that will throw you off and confuse you. I do recommend reading it, but I will be summarizing it for you, so if you don't have the time, then keep watching. For the sake of keeping this video succinct and interesting, I will be sticking to specific allegations that Johnny has made in his declaration, and I'll be supporting those allegations with evidence if need be, and if the evidence is available, which in Johnny's case, he has tons, most of which won't even be included in this video because I simply don't have the time. All right, let's get straight into this. In Johnny's declaration, there are 4 main incidents that I have extrapolated and identified as the most relevant to talk about in this video. The first incident is probably the most well-known and also most horrific of them all. It took place in March of 2015 in Australia while Johnny was filming the 5th installment of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Note that this was barely a month into their marriage as specified by Johnny in his declaration. In summary, they had a huge fight, and amongst other things, Amber threw a glass bottle of vodka at Johnny. He was standing by the kitchen island with his hand on the marble countertop, and the bottle smashed against the marble countertop, severing the tip of his middle finger and shattering the bone. As a result of this injury, Johnny developed an incredibly serious and potentially fatal infection known as MRSA, MRSA, 3 times. Amber also burnt his right cheek with a cigarette after severely wounding his finger. Johnny has provided photographic evidence in support of his claim, labeled Exhibit D. In this photograph, which was taken in hospital in Queensland, Australia, you can clearly see the bandaged middle finger and the burn mark on his right cheek. There is also a voice recording of the aftermath of this incident. For some reason that is unknown to pretty much everyone, Amber chose to secretly record the incident starting from right before Johnny was taken to the hospital.
I wish you understood what you are and who you are and how you me over and make me feel sick of myself. There's still a lot left in the day. Maybe you should dye your hair. I see your roots.
I will link the Daily Mail article that I sourced the recording from. So if you are interested, and again, I highly recommend you listen to this recording, then take the time. It's only 15 minutes, I believe. And there's some pretty damning evidence in that recording.
She admits to me, she threw a bottle on him. She did it first. And she admitted also that she hit him first. She actually hit it in the face.
The final point to mention about this specific incident is the fact that because Johnny was still so in love with Amber at this time, he lied and covered for her when he was questioned about his finger at the hospital. He made up several little excuses, but the doctors never bought them. Amber, of course, took advantage of the situation, took advantage of his love for her, and continues to latch on to the lies that he came up with to protect her. So she's perpetuating his initial cover-up for her as her narrative. Moving on to the second incident, which took place on the 15th of December 2015. Johnny claims that nothing particularly memorable happened on this day, which is crazy because when I detail it to you, it's horrific, but it just shows how he was just so mired in abuse at the time that this incident wasn't really anything special or worth mentioning to him. He only mentioned this date because Amber chose to cook up an elaborate lie surrounding this date. So despite Johnny saying that nothing memorable happened on this day, he was physically assaulted by Amber. She screamed at him, scratched him, and even threw a can of paint thinner at his head. Johnny has provided photographic evidence of these attacks attached as Exhibit C. It is also worth noting that on this day, Amber found out that she alone would be held responsible for illegally smuggling her dogs into Australia back in March when she was visiting Johnny and when she severed his finger. It is my guess that this day was a particularly bad day for her, which probably resulted in the fight because in her mind, of course, being Amber and being the abusive person that we know that she is, she was enraged that she alone would be held accountable for a crime that she alone committed instead of Johnny being held accountable with her. Moving on to the third incident, which was a pivotal incident in their relationship because it signaled the end of it. This took place on the night of the 21st of April 2016 and the early hours of the 22nd of April. It was the night of Amber's 30th birthday party, to which Johnny arrived late. The party took place at his penthouse in Los Angeles. When Amber's guests left, a huge altercation broke out, allegedly because she was angry that he was late. Amongst other things, Johnny alleges in his declaration that Amber punched him multiple times in the face as he lay in bed reading late at night. These attacks left him with an egg-shaped swelling under his left eye. Johnny has provided photographic evidence of his injury in support of his claims, marked Exhibit B. The photo was taken in the early hours of the 22nd of April 2016 at the insistence of one of his bodyguards, Sean Bett. The icing on the cake, which is a pun because it was Amber's birthday, is the surprise dump, literally pile of shit, feces, that Amber left on Johnny's side of the bed, which was discovered by a housekeeper on the morning of the 22nd of April. And anyone who saw the poop specified that it was quite large, and this is an important point to keep in mind because later on, Amber alleges that it was a little accident that was left behind by her little dog, like a tiny dog. I don't know the breed. I'll pop it up on the screen for you. Anyone who saw the feces did say that there was no way such a tiny dog would have left such a large pile of poop. According to Johnny in his declaration, Amber initially did fess up to doing this, calling it a harmless prank. But then she kept changing her story about it. First, it was, as I just said, a harmless prank, and then it was an accident that was left behind by her dog, and finally, she wielded one of the most destructive weapons that an abuser can wield against their victim, which is gaslighting, making their victim question reality, calling their victim crazy, and telling them that the event, which in this case was leaving feces on the bed, never happened, and that they were either lying or it was a figment of their imagination. This final point of gaslighting directly leads us into the final incident that took place between Johnny and Amber. After the horrors of what transpired on Amber's birthday, Johnny resolved to divorce her. He dropped by the penthouse on the 21st of May to collect his things and to tell her that he was divorcing her. At that point, from what I could make out in the declaration, he hadn't seen her for the entire month that elapsed between her birthday and that day. What apparently tipped Amber over the edge this time was when he called the estate manager, put him on loudspeaker, and asked him to repeat his recollections of Amber admitting that the feces was a harmless prank. Johnny did this after Amber repeatedly denied being responsible for that, so she flew into a fit of rage when she heard the estate manager expose her lies. At that point, Johnny told her that he wanted a divorce, and she insisted on calling her best friend, Io Tillett Wright, who, by the way, has really gone out of their way to support Amber's narrative, or as Johnny calls it, her elaborate hoax. At some point, Johnny takes the phone from Amber to tell Io that the relationship was over, and at that point, both Io and Amber start to gaslight Johnny about the feces incident, telling him that it never happened and that he was imagining it. At that point, Johnny had had enough and told Io that it was over and flung the phone onto the sofa, which was around 4 feet away from where Amber was standing at the time. He then turned around and walked 20 feet away from Amber to the kitchen island. She then proceeds to scream into the phone, "Johnny, stop hitting me," which prompts her other best friend, Raquel, who lives in one of Johnny's penthouses for free, by the way, to suddenly run into the apartment. Amber then proceeds to tell both of her friends, Io on the phone and Raquel in person, that Johnny threw the phone at her face. Now, unbeknownst to Amber, Johnny had instructed both of his bodyguards to wait right outside the door in case she became violent, because that was the norm. At the sound of Amber's screams, they both ran in, which completely caught Amber off guard, because as they ran in, they caught her in the act of screaming, "Stop hitting me, Johnny," when Johnny was clearly 20 feet away from her in the kitchen. She was shocked, but then she quickly recovered and started to say, "You better not hit me again," to cover up for her lie. Completely stunned by the charade that he had just witnessed, Johnny decided to leave, which he promptly did with his bodyguards, and they went back to his West LA home. In relation to this incident, Johnny's claims are backed up by the testimony of both his security guards. There is also an excerpt of the deposition that was given by Raquel, Amber's best friend, in which she very specifically says that she never saw Johnny hit Amber or abuse her ever. She also unintentionally backed up Johnny by saying that she heard him deny hitting Amber at that particular time. There is a lot more evidence that supports this particular day, including police testimony, because the police were called around 2 hours after this happened, and both of these officers testified that Amber was not injured, was not hurt, there was no bruising, nothing was broken or smashed in the house, because that's what she alleged Johnny did. But if I went into all the lies and all the perjury and all the stories that Amber cooked up, that would be an entire video, and a lengthy one at that. So the question here is, after all of this irrefutable evidence, why is Amber Heard not in jail yet? Or why hasn't she been charged? Why isn't she under investigation? There is a defamation case that is ongoing, but I'm talking criminal charges here. If the roles were reversed, if the genders were reversed, and Amber was indeed the victim and had this overwhelming amount of evidence against Johnny, a man, we all know this would be handled a very different way. Johnny's career, for starters, would be entirely over. I mean, his career took a huge hit initially in 2016 when she came out with all her lies, and he kept quiet and didn't refute anything that she was saying because all of this evidence wasn't available to him yet. He says in his declaration, as soon as this evidence became available to him, he made it public. The way people believed Amber so readily, and the way that she flaunts herself as the voice of Me Too and the voice of domestic violence survivors and Time's Up and all those movements that she so hypocritically chooses to represent and be the face of, it blows my mind the lengths that woman will go to portray this image that Johnny was the abuser and that she was his victim. It's common knowledge that this woman has been previously arrested for domestic violence against her then wife in 2009. Johnny makes mention of this in his declaration as well. I just didn't choose to mention it because, again, the focus of my video is to prove every one of his allegations in which he was abused by her. And I didn't want to drag in any past situations where he wasn't involved. But this woman is out there, still free, still with some semblance of a career. I think it is on the decline, but she does have some semblance of a career. And this is once again sending out a message to women that they can get away with this shit, which I'm not okay with, which everyone should not be okay with. Women are not some perfect, fragile creature that can do no harm. And they can do serious harm. And Amber is proof of that. And with that, I am going to end this video. Please do let me know in the comments below what you think about this. Let me know if you actually believed Amber in the beginning, because I'm going to be completely transparent with you and say that despite the fact that I have been a lifelong, and still am, a lifelong fan of Johnny Depp. He was my first ever celebrity crush as a little girl. I religiously watched every single one of his movies, and I still kind of believed Amber at the beginning. I'm ashamed to say that, but I did, until Johnny's truth started to come out. So yes, let me know what you guys think. Did you buy Amber's story? Do you still buy her story? Have you always believed in Johnny's innocence? And do you think that she should be under investigation and charged or even prosecuted for what she has subjected Johnny to? He went into this relationship as a whole beautiful human being, and I think we all saw the effect that being with this woman had on him, even when he was still married to her. I remember thinking, what's wrong with Johnny? He looks like a vampire. He just looked so sunken and unhealthy, and like he aged 20 years overnight, and now he's back to being so just beautiful and fresh and healthy. And it's just a testament to how she sucked the life out of him and made him a shell of the person that he used to be. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video informative. And if you want to take away anything from this video, whether you're a man or a woman, document your domestic abuse, because Johnny didn't actually think of doing that himself. His bodyguards did, because they were trained and they knew better. Document it, because when it comes to these things, it's usually a matter of he said, she said, and if you have the evidence, that's all you need. Thank you for watching. Stay safe, and I will catch you in a future video.